Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid Butt. And as usual, we have important topics to discuss with you today. 3 topics. The first, of course, is the Pak-US relationship. How is it going to go forward after the Doha deal that has been signed between the Afghan Taliban and the US government? Will the US still remain as a good friend to Pakistan, as has been mentioned of late by the different segments of the American society, or will it turn a new leaf? Only time will tell. But we are quite optimistic about the new chapter of Pakistan-US relationship after the Doha deal, because of course Pakistan has had a huge role to play in this. Our second story of the day is about Indian atrocities in Kashmir. Nothing new there since the 5th of August, and even beyond that, before that, Indian atrocities have been going on in Jammu and Kashmir. But now, since December last year, when the CAA was implemented, there have been a new wave of violence, because people have come out on the streets to protest against these discriminatory laws that have been passed by the government, and the government is leaving no stone unturned to show that they are hell-bent to move ahead with it and are not going to listen to any such advice. In all of this scenario, there have been international condemnations of what is happening in India, and we will talk about that. Our last segment of the day is rather a sad event. Amanullah, a veteran comedian from stage, television and film, has passed away at the age of 70. He was of course ill since a long time, but he leaves behind a legacy as far as his acting career is concerned. All segments of the society have taken to different forms of social media to talk about his death and to talk about the work that he has left behind. These are the 3 topics that we will discuss. Let's start with the first, but before we start, let me introduce to you my 2 guests who are here with me on my panel for this episode of Newsroom. On my very right is Brigadier Retired Tipu Sultan Saab. You're a senior analyst and a regular guest, sir. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. Our second guest is also a regular on our shows, Tukhral Yamin. You're a foreign affairs expert. Yamin Saab, pleasure to have you here. We will start with the first segment, that is of course the Pakistan-US relationship. The Doha deal, Brigadier Saab, has been very important, and Pakistan has been a huge part of this Doha deal to bring together the Afghan Taliban and the US on one negotiating table. And even in the past, in all the negotiations that have occurred on different fora in different countries, Pakistan has had a major role to play. How do you foresee the role or the relationship or the friendship between Pakistan and the United States post the Doha deal? Do you feel it's going to remain on an upward trajectory? Is it going to remain stagnant, or is it going down?
Well, given the roller coaster history of Pakistan-US relations, one thing has remained constant always, and that is the behavior and the conduct of Pakistan regarding the peace in South Asia, and of course its policy generally towards the world. What has been alternating is, the policy has been mutating, so to say, by the United States itself, and it was chiefly governed by the conditionality that it faced in South Asia. First of all, when the Russians and the Soviets were defeated in Afghanistan, their policy changed. When they came,
you remember the Pressler amendments as well in the past. I mean,
when they came full swing into Afghanistan, coaxed with NATO forces, and then the US policy has been to pressurize Pakistan and do more mantra, continued for decades. And only a couple of years back, Trump had said that we will hit Pakistan at the time of their choosing, and he announced the new South Asia policy.
You remember that?
You remember that,
and the New Year tweet that came up, that became very popular from his
short memories. Now that the Americans have, I will safely say that there was a strategic stalemate, although many people will say that their aims and objectives were defeated in Afghanistan. Pakistan helped the international community to bring about peace. And Imran Khan, when he was not in power, he said that let's open an office for the Taliban in Pakistan. Everybody made fun of him, and later on they went and made an office in Doha. And I would suggest right now that it's about time that we opened an office for them over here now. It's not too distant a possibility that we'll be interacting with them in a more meaningful manner. However, I must be cautiously treading on this, that the Afghan situation itself is very murky. the government in Kabul, whatever it is in place, is on very
It has also
soft.
been going to and fro as far as that peace deal is concerned. And for that, I'd like to ask your opinion, Tohrali Amin Saab. This deal, this famous Zohar deal, at the moment of the signing between the Afghan Taliban and the US government, there was no condemnation from the Afghan government. And then when it was time to release the prisoners as per the deal that was done, there was a lot of hue and cry from the Afghan government. But of course, at the end, they did relent to it and abide by it. But do you feel that the Afghan government is really a party to it? And do you feel that they are going to pressurize the US government as far as their relationship with Pakistan is concerned post the Doha deal? What's your take on that?
The Afghan government, the government in
Yes,
Kabul,
that is currently here.
yeah, they are feeling left out. They have been feeling left out for a very long time now because the US government has finally started talking directly with the Taliban, which is a tacit recognition of the Taliban as a legitimate stakeholder. Although in the provisional deal that has been signed, they have been at pains to clarify that the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, which we recognize only as the Taliban, but still, notwithstanding that proviso, they have recognized them, they have talked with them. So Ashraf Ghani and his cohorts are naturally feeling left out. But the fact of the matter is the position of Ashraf Ghani is not very stable within Afghanistan because
despite the fact that he's won the elections.
He's won the elections, but
that have been contested by Abdullah
Abdullah has rejected the results as usual, which was expected, I think, and he's also said that I would form a parallel government. Whether he does that or not, I'm not sure. But the fact is that Ashraf Ghani is not on very sound standing.
Where does that leave Pakistan-US relations and the Afghan influence on the US as far as their relationship with Pakistan is concerned?
I think US would not leave Pakistan for now because, as my worthy panelist also said, that the situation in Afghanistan is very volatile and it will take time before it stabilizes, and one doesn't know what kind of political dispensation would come into being in Afghanistan because the intra-Afghan dialogue, which was scheduled to start on 10th of March, I don't know whether it will start or not because there have been some kind of uptick in violence. The Taliban have attacked, the Americans have attacked. So I don't know whether it will start on time or not. But the Americans will continue to bank on Pakistan because Pakistan is a
Do you agree with Brigadier Tipu Sultan that it's time that we opened up a Taliban office in Pakistan? That's something that our Prime Minister had proposed some time back as well.
I endorse what he says. Why not? We should do it because Taliban, we have hopes that they will make a positive relationship with Pakistan. Whether they were good or bad, that was the only period in the very checkered history of Afghanistan when we had good relations with people who were ruling in Kabul. So I think it's time that we should make an effort and let them open an office over
All right. Brigadier Tipu Sultan Sahab, US President Donald Trump goes to India and contrary to the wishes of the Indian government, talks about his good friend Imran Khan, talks about his relationship with Pakistan and says that Pakistan is a good friend, which irks a lot of the so-called people in power in India. Do you feel that is also a sign of the change in the trajectory of Pak-US relationship?
I will refer to you the interview of the Russian President Vladimir Putin with the Financial Times about an year back, and it was a very well conducted interview. It lasted over 1 hour, and the interviewer asked the Russian President about Donald Trump, and he says that since he is not from a traditional political family, he does whatever he feels like. And it's interesting to note that if you have a president of a powerful nation, as powerful as the United States, and the president wants to do his own things, it will not be strange when you think that he has spoken to Mullah Brother for almost half an hour. It was unthinkable before that. What has changed in Afghanistan and with respect to the US strategic involvement over there is that the US is not only militarily has a solution in Doha, but also wants to be politically involved with the Taliban. That's a fundamental change. Although they sent the Defense Secretary expert to Kabul and he spoke with Ashraf Ghani and in the presence of Amrullah Saleh and Abdullah and all those people who are supposed to be spoilers in the game. And you remember Amrullah Saleh is pro-India, and given the Afghan elections, Ashraf Ghani is the president, he becomes his deputy by the dint of whatever elections took place over there. I will say that one thing is fundamentally important in Afghanistan, that the leverage and the power flows through the barrel of the gun, fortunately or unfortunately. And given the economy of Afghanistan, where the security forces are dependent on foreign aid, and there is a fragmentation in Kabul where Abdullah says that he wants to make his own government across Salang Tunnel with coax with Dostum and Uzbeks and all that. And Ashraf Ghani has given certain privileges to the Pakhtuns, and he controls a fair amount of section of Pakhtuns. And then the Taliban, who wield a lot of power along with Haqqanis, and the American engagement with them, and the American elections coming. There's so many factors that are coming into view. I think.
Is it going to become a pot boiler? I mean, because too many factors, too many cooks, will this spoil the broth eventually?
One thing is very clear. The thing which is very clear is that the foreign troops' involvement in Afghanistan has come to a dead end. There is not going to be any surge of military operation on part of the NATO or on part of the US in Afghanistan in foreseeable future. Although they are keeping Sharandan and Bagram air bases, and they have spent huge lot of money over there. But I think the troops on ground are not going to be there, and it is the Taliban who are going to call the shots. And it is in the interest of all factions in Kabul to come on in the intra-Afghan dialogue. But I will tell you what the Talib thinks from inside. Although the Doha agreement is wrapped around mysteries so as the plans of Taliban are concerned. They would,
but they have ultimately signed it. That is the most important thing, Brigadier Saab. They have signed it.
They have signed it all right. But their actions post 15 months that they have got and post US withdrawal, they would like to absorb all opponents to their political and military future.
All right. Tughrali Amin Sahab, if they involve and if they absorb, as Brigadier Tipu Sultan Sahab says, all the other opponents in their own wrap, as they say, and eventually want to gain power overall in Afghanistan, will that or can that be considered a possibility?
Well, that's a distinct possibility that the Taliban may emerge as a leading player. I do not know whether they will be able to absorb everyone within their fold or not, because there are people who are very much opposed to them. The elite in Kabul is not in favor of them. The elite in Kabul is against Pakistan. They have been saying that Pakistan, the Taliban should announce their relationship with Pakistan. So there are anti-Pakistan lobbies within Afghanistan who would certainly not like to join hands with the Taliban.
Well, speaking of the anti-Pakistan lobby in Afghanistan, let's also talk about
the style of Taliban is that they will always negotiate from the position of strength. Remember, they have survived as a political and military force across 2 decades of bombing for a long time. The first thing they will do after the expiry of this stipulated period is that they will establish their raid. In all probability, they are going to have an assault on Kabul.
All right.
I have absolutely no doubt about all the the panelist is absolutely right that they may not be able to absorb all the opponents there, but they will establish their raid across the major portion of the opposition they got, and then wait for the stronger ones to be tackled. I think the Taliban from 90s and the Taliban from 220 are different.
Although in which aspect?
The difference is that they have got more politically astute. They have said that they are not looking to rule Afghanistan all by themselves. What does that mean? That means that they hold power, and it is the other factions who want to join them in recovery of Afghanistan and Afghan unity. But what they will not do it, Taliban will never ever play a second fiddle in Afghanistan. From inside, they want to regain whatever they had lost. They say that they were not involved in 9/11. Even Osama the American CIA and the American government has apologized from Osama bin Laden. They said they were not involved in 9/11. The power has been usurped illegitimately by NATO and US, and they like to get back to that. However, they face a situation in which they have negotiated a peace deal. Pakistan has been telling the Americans all along that there is no military solution to Afghanistan. No, we are going to smoke them out. Remember George Bush, we're going to smoke them out and we're going to destroy them and we're going to do this, that and all that. We're going to rid Taliban from all Islamic fundamentalists and terrorists and whatnot. So they failed to do that and they've come to a different strategy now.
All right. Speaking of different strategy, Tughal Amin Saab, we've seen the good cop, bad cop being played by the US as far as its relationship with Pakistan is concerned, even of late. Let's talk about Mike Pompeo speaking in favor of Pakistan and the role that Pakistan has played in this Doha deal. But apart from him, there haven't been many voices emanating from the US side praising Pakistan for their role in the Doha deal, praising Pakistan for putting the Afghan Taliban and the US on one negotiating table. There are many advisors who are pro-India. There are many advisors who do not want the US-Pakistan relationship to flourish. In all of this situation, how do you foresee this post the Doha deal? Now that the forces will slowly and steadily, if the situation remains calm, remove themselves, there will be a small amount of forces, around 8,600 forces that will remain at the end of 14 months. But this said, the majority of the forces would have gone home. So will the American influence, more or less, to a large extent. What happens next as far as US-Pakistan relationship is concerned?
All depends on us. I think we have to make a very sound Afghan policy. What do we want to do? Our short-term goals, our long-term goals. And there are many things that we can do. We can play a very constructive role in the rehabilitation and rebuilding of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a destroyed country. Everything is being reduced to, I think, rubbish now. Pakistan can play a very important role. As a university professor, I know that our Higher Education Commission should actually now be thinking of rebuilding Afghan universities. We should actually be thinking of getting more Afghan students in our universities. Similarly, law enforcement agencies should be looking forward to rebuilding the Afghan police, militias and other things. Pakistan military can play a very important role.
That's very good. That looks very good on paper, Tughal Amin Saab. But the fact of the matter is, will Afghanistan be ready for Pakistan's engagement in all these different fora?
We have to work towards it. I think we have to go into Afghanistan. We have to engage with them. The field is wide open. If we don't do it, we are going to be losers because we have already lost a lot of business in Afghanistan. Our business has gone to Indians, it has gone to the Chinese, it has gone to the Russians. We are still not wanted in Kabul. But as mentioned over here, it's I'm sure the new dispensation, whatever it is, whether it's fully Taliban or whether it's an amalgam of Taliban and other people, it's going to be more open to Pakistan. It's not like Karzai or Abdullah or Ashraf Ghani who have just been blocking Pakistan. I think we can play a role. I think we should play a role. We should have a very proactive Afghan policy.
All right. Brigadier Tipu Sultan Sahib, there's a huge difference between can and should. How much of an optimist are you as far as Pakistan's role, future role? Because it's very interesting, the different fora that Tughal Amin Sahib has pointed out as far as Pakistan's cooperation with Afghanistan in order to rebuild it post the Doha deal is concerned.
Pakistan has learned one thing very positively over the years in the time that has passed. And that is that you have to cajole and help Afghanistan to decide for itself. We do not have to force them on things. However, I must agree with them, this is a very profound observation over here, that Pakistan must coax the economic engagement and the engagement across the social turf of Afghanistan apart from the security needs of Afghanistan. Remember, what is going to happen is that Afghanistan is a poor country, it has no economy, it has no manufacturing, it has no port. The economy is dependent across the borders with Pakistan, and Pakistan has a great opportunity to rebuild Afghanistan. Pakistan has a great opportunity to tell the Afghan people that we have been helping Afghans over the years despite the threats that has been coming from Afghanistan, despite the Indians trying to destabilize Pakistan, spending millions of dollars against it. You read the Indian media and they said that, oh, the shop is going to be closed and they have spent so many millions of dollars that it has gone off, it has just flown off the air. What are they going to do? They want to establish their relationship with Taliban. On the other hand, they are wooing the old NSD friends, the old friends in Kabul and across the Salang tunnel. So I think Pakistan has a great opportunity to rebuild Afghanistan, and Pakistan has a great opportunity to help Afghanistan strategize their own future. And I think the thing that we have learned, we must not let that go out of our mind, that Afghan basically, according to the genetically, Afghan is a very free person. He doesn't want to be, waylaid in a certain position. He wants to be helped, and we must always keep that in mind. And there is no doubt in my mind that Taliban are going to play a major role in whatever is going to happen in Afghanistan. If the peace comes through the negotiations of Doha, and if the peace comes after a slight skirmish or more skirmish or war or whatever, the peace must come at whatever cost it takes in Afghanistan. That's going to help. The other important factor is that we have to go and ask China to help rebuild the area. They are already doing that. They already want to do that. But the Chinese...
China-Pakistan economic corridor is a huge example of that. Imagine extending that to Afghanistan.
I think the Chinese perpetuate and spread their policy through a different mode, through a different strategy. The Americans, chiefly it's their gunboat diplomacy, it's arm twisting, it is their deployment across the globe in the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, the bases that they have in Afghanistan and Diego Garcia and Middle East and all that stuff. But Chinese developed the nations that they built their relation through economic means, through connectivity. And here is a great opportunity for the Chinese, not only the CPEC, or Pakistan Economic Corridor, but I think the Chinese companies have to go inside once there is peace. I am sure it is in the mind of the Chinese people.
All right. Peace is very important, of course. That is what Pakistan has been going for in Afghan and in Afghan own peace process. But then there is the Indian factor. And the Foreign Office has also very lately said that we are very aware of the Indian aggressive designs that are going on. It's not something new. I mean, everybody knows about the Indian aggressive designs. We've been talking about this in this show as well. Now, with the Indians also lobbying in the US against Pakistan, and since it's nothing new there as well, they've been doing that for decades. How should Pakistan, in your point of view, sir, counter the Indian lobbying or the Indian aggressive designs internationally as well as in the region?
Lobbying on the Capitol Hill needs a lot of cash. You have to hire lobbyists. I don't know whether Pakistan government has that or not. But really Pakistan can do a lot on ground. For example, you see Pakistan should energize the TAPI, the Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India pipeline. Pakistan can then have leverage on India. If a pipeline is passing through Pakistan, it is still not come into being. There's a CASA 1000 energy project that can also be brought to fruition. So there are things that Pakistan can do. Lobbying with the US can be nuanced. The peace deal says that the United States will help reconstruction of Afghanistan. Pakistan can also, our diplomats can also try and find out ways in which the Americans can outsource some kind of reconstruction to us. So there are many ways that you can lobby, and I think we have the potential to do it. We have the necessary wherewithal, we have the necessary manpower to help Afghanistan. And I think if we are able to showcase our skills, the roads have been constructed in the CPEC and other things. I think the Americans will also say that, okay, fine, you go ahead, do it.
The road as far as Pakistan-Afghan relationship is rocky, but nevertheless has an ending that looks quite bright, especially after the Doha deal that has been signed. But nevertheless, one should not forget or put on one side the Indian aggressive designs, as has been pointed out by the Foreign Office spokesperson as well on more than one occasions. Now, when it comes to India, it's very easy for a country to point the fingers at others, but one should always remember what is happening in their own country as well, whether it be since the 5th of August last year or since December last year when the CAA was implemented, and then all the furor that has been going on in different cities, and the people that have come out, people who never talked before openly, are now openly criticizing the Narendra Modi government and the policy, especially the CAA, which brings into bad light the minorities of a country that calls itself the biggest democracy in the world. Let's watch a little package on the latest situation in India, and we'll return and talk more about that.
In India's capital, thousands of people have been displaced after a recent rioting over a controversial citizenship law that discriminates against Muslims. More than 50 people have died. Homes and businesses of Muslims have been torched by Hindu nationalists. Until recently, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's campaign to portray India as a rising power seemed to be ticking along despite troubles at home. On Wednesday, Freedom House, a non-partisan democratic advocacy organization, flagged India as a major concern. The group said the Indian government has taken its Hindu nationalist agenda to a new level with a succession of policies threatening the democratic future of a country long seen as a potential bulwark of freedom in Asia and the world. In a rare move, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights filed a petition in India's Supreme Court to challenge a citizenship law. United States Commission on International Religious Freedom also condemned the violence in Delhi. India's closest partners have begun criticizing its treatment of Muslims and migrants, with condemnations coming in from Iran, United States, Bangladesh and elsewhere. Though there has been no sign yet that big doors are closing internationally, the violence in New Delhi has clearly opened a new chapter of international questioning of Mr. Modi's agenda.
Well, when we talk of Narendra Modi's agenda, we also need to highlight the criticism that has come out on this very agenda in India. While some countries like Iran or Turkey have openly criticized it, or even Malaysia, there are many countries, including many Muslim countries, that have remained more or less silent on this issue. Brigadier Tipu Sultan Sahib, why is that?
Well, it is amazing that the way the Indians are behaving, the way the press is behaving, the way the Foreign Office is behaving and perpetuating a policy looks insane to me. India was never secular.
But India, now it is out in the open,
Yeah, India was never secular in any government's time. But now the manifestation of RSS has blossomed under Narendra Modi. And the Indians have chosen a path which leads to a disaster. The Prime Minister has said that. The Prime Minister thanked Ali Khamenei and Erdogan on their support. Apart from there, the major anchors across the international media, I was having a look at the program of GPS by Fareed Zakaria the other day. The whole program directed against what is happening in India. And remember that journalist is pro-India and the thrust of BBC and the CNN, the Western media is well known to us. All the human rights organizations, major media channels and print media, they're all talking about it. And the Indians are, turning a deaf ear and eye to that. God knows what is going to happen.
Because in the report, even the United Nations Human Rights Commission has put a petition in the court in India.
In the Supreme Court of India.
Yes, but the Indians say that this is an internal matter. Is it really an internal matter, Tughral Yamin Saab? This whole condemnation, this whole new rise of violence in India, whether it be Jammu and Kashmir, that has been going on since decades, but now a new chapter has turned since 5th of August and of course since December, since the CAA was implemented. Don't you feel that it is no longer an internal matter?
I don't think it's an internal matter anymore. Particularly with the CAA, you see you are actually disenfranchising of some of your own citizens. You are saying that perhaps they have to go back to their countries of origin. Countries of origin, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh. So this is not an internal matter. Somebody was discussing with me the other day over lunch. He said, do you expect another migration from India? I said, I don't know. One, I'm not against migration. People migrate, people keep out migrating. This happens, and one shouldn't be worried about it. Migrants add to the diversity, they add to your economy. They're not burden. If you are Muslims, we think.
But in a country that says that it's the so-called biggest democracy in the world and a secular state, how can it call itself that?
Absolutely not. When you are a flame, you see, we teach UN peacekeeping operations to our troops who go abroad. And it happens when the country cannot control itself. You send UN peacekeepers, or you adopt other methods, interventionist method, when you feel that the country is on a path of self-destruction, that it is no more capable of looking after its own people. That is when.
But they are turning a blind eye to this self-destruction. They say, "Oh, everything is hunky-dory. We don't. This is an internal matter. We'll deal with it ourselves." What do you say, Brigadier Saab?
Well, I think the Indians have gone on to choose an option for themselves. They are not sure themselves what is going to happen. Many people, like Arundhati Rai, says that if ever India comes out of the crisis, she hoped that the Indians will not have to pay too much of price. I think the Indians are going to pay too much of price. And the irony is that a lot of people are going to be killed, a lot of people are going to suffer, and unfortunately the major portion of it is Muslims. I think the Muslims of India, there are 200 million people over there. It is for them to choose a path to defend themselves. If the government is not listening politically, they are not listening to reason. They have become so mad in their ethnic cleansing and their atrocities and their mass killing of people. Then what choice the people have? Remember, the UN Charter gives you a legitimate right to defend yourself, and the other countries also got a right to intervene in that, whether politically or militarily or socially or whatever. I'm not saying that we should tomorrow collect our army and have an assault in India, but I think the first thing which should happen is, in India, in Kashmir, in Assam, in UP, in Bihar, in Bengal, that the Muslims need to get together under one flag to defend themselves. I am absolutely sure that the Hindu fundamentalists and the goons of BJP and RSS will be on their killing spree. Look at the speeches that they are making. Look at the way they are killing people. They are burning them alive.
They incense the hate that they are propagating.
I mean, disrespect to the woman is a small word. I cannot even, explain what are they doing. It is available on the social media and all the footages that you have. But what choice the Indian Muslims have other than to fight and defend themselves?
All right, Indian Muslims, what choice do they have other than to fight or defend themselves? But Tughral Yamin Saab, let's also talk about the Muslims across the world, the Muslim nations. While Khamenei Saab or Erdogan Saab or Mahathir Saab have condemned what is happening in India, and very openly on different fora, very lately Khamenei Saab as well as Erdogan Saab, but there are many other countries that are staying more or less silent. And I'll refer to the tweet by our Prime Minister Imran Khan. Sadly, and I quote unquote, sadly few voices from the Muslim world are speaking out and condemning this, and more voices are being raised in the West condemning the Hindu supremacist Modi regime's massacre of Muslims in India and Kashmiris in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Why?
Why? It's apathy. You allow this to happen. It has happened in the past. Pogroms, genocides, entire generation of Muslims was wiped out from Spain, but perhaps at that time there was no social media. But this is unfortunate. If you don't raise your voices now, something will happen to you. Unfortunately, the Arabs have been very, very apathetic. They have done nothing for Palestine. They talk about Palestine a lot in OIC. The OIC special envoy has been here, but they don't. It's a pity. I think sometimes they think on ethnic lines. They don't think that you are a Muslim. They think of themselves as Arabs first or something else first. And again, one more thing: the Muslims in India are defenseless. They will be killed. They can't fight for themselves. They don't have the wherewithal to do that.
What if they stand together as one?
What stand together? What against? With what? With sticks? With bricks? With stones? Oh, they will be killed. They will be butchered. They will be decimated. Don't think that they don't have.
But that brings to point, Tughral Yamin Saab, the role of the international community, the role of international
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The Muslims should together rise in their favor. It's not. You see, I don't know whether it's a myth or story or whatever, but Muhammad bin Qasim did come over here when there was a cry for help, and there have been so many instances when Muslims have intervened. If I'm a defenseless woman, what can I do? How can I fight? My husband will stand and see me being raped. That's what has been happening in Bosnia. That's what has been happening in Kosovo. These
Rohingyas.
You see the kind of words fail me. The way these people have been butchered and disseminated, or the genocide has been perpetrated against them. So I don't know what's going to happen.
A lot of we can talk about that for such a lot of time. But my last questions to the both of you, and I'd like really short answers, one or two phrases from the both of you, Brigadier, beginning with you, Brigadier Saab. What needs to be done? I mean, I emphasize, underline 10 times what needs to be done in order for this massacre, whether it be in India, whether it be of the Rohingyas, whether it be in other parts of the world, to really come to a halt. What needs to be done?
I think the first thing is for the Muslims to have some sort of a common strategy, which seemingly is missing. I think the condition of Muslims is very weak in India. I agree with that. But they do not have any choice other than to get up and fight. They are going to be killed anyway. They are going to be, disrespected anyway.
True.
But if they put up a fight, then there might be some change. They are going to lose a lot of life. But I think
they might be the harbingers of change.
There are examples. There are so many in number. They have to fight for themselves. There is no other choice.
They are a big minority.
The time is short, otherwise I would have explained it to you.
Because of course, the number of Muslims in India are much more than the amount of Muslims in Pakistan. Totally, I mean, sir, what needs to be done?
We need an alternative forum for the Muslims. I think what Erdogan and Mahathir were trying to do was a sensible thing to do.
Okay.
Because our Arab brothers, I think they have not come up to our expectations. OIC is a moribund body. I think we need a alternate forum in which we can speak for the Muslims.
Last.
For Arab and Ajam, Iqbal says, "Na zubaan meri ghazal ki na zubaan se aashna mein. Koi dil kusha sada ho, ajmi ho ke tazi." Ajam and Arab, we have to leave aside and have absolutely right here, have a forum which is effective.
All right, thank you very much, Brigadier Tipu Sultan Sahab. Thank you very much, Dr. Ali Amin Sahab. I think we have tried to be philosophical, we've tried to be authentic as well as factual on these very two important stories that have been plaguing the region and the Muslims in particular, and something needs to be done before it is too late. Thank you so very much. And ladies and gentlemen, our last segment, of course, is a sad story. It is not the first time that we lose an icon of stage, film and television. We've lost many people like Ruhi Bano, like others in the past. But this time this happens to somebody who is loved by the masses. This is stage, television and film actor Amanullah. Amanullah, who was a very, very poor guy belonging to Gujranwala, and to just make ends meet, slowly and steadily rose up the ladder and started to work in theatre, and then there was no looking back because people started praising him. The general public, the janta, the people on the street loved him since so many decades and still do. Unfortunate that he has passed away after a protracted illness, but his legacy will remain on. His countless shows, his countless television appearances or theatre appearances or film appearances where he has made people laugh. And this is one person. He has also brought the different political segments of the society together, whether it be the Speaker of the National Assembly, whether it be our Prime Minister, whether it be the Leader of the Opposition. They've all joined hands in condemning the passing away of a legend that is Amanullah. I hope and I wish that such legends remain etched in our minds, and that we continue to harbinger the love and the respect that other countries have given for their legends as well. With that, we come to an end of this segment of Newsroom. We'll be back inshallah next week. Stay tuned. Allah Hafiz.